Magic in the Mind podcast, where spirituality and psychology intersect. Today, I'll be sharing with you all an interview with my friend Amia, who is just such a wonderful person. We met on the spiritual community Journey to Your Soul, and Amia has recently opened a business utilizing her skills in wellness. So let's go ahead and just get right into it. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself and like how you got to where you are now, maybe about your spiritual awakening?
Yes. So people call me Mia for short. Mia is like my full name, but people call me Mia usually. And I've always been a spiritual like person, just kind of by nature. But I grew up very like strict Christian, like in a very like cult-like environment. And so with that, I always had questions about like, what are we believing? And like, these things don't make sense, and I have more questions. And, I always had like the whole questioning of like, oh, if astrology is so bad, then why is it so accurate, to like who I am and like,
Right.
able to pinpoint all these things. And I'm like, yeah, that is right. So that was always in the back of my mind when I was like heavy in like Christianity and all that. And so in 2020, like, when the pandemic happened and all that, I think really probably before that, really like when I had my first kid, my son, in 2019, right before the pandemic, I was just like the transition into motherhood, I think was really just difficult. Like it's hard to explain, but it's like your entire like your identity just completely just like gone of who you were before
Right.
you had kids. So, and in my case, it was just especially kind of unexpected because we were not planning to have kids at all. Like, that's on the way back further. So we were like shocked, so we had no idea with our son that we're like, that was not at all like in our game plan, like during that time. So my world was like, and I knew like just from my nature, I'm a Cancer, I was like, oh, I'm ready to be a mom. I got this, like I got it, so I just went full on into just being a mother and doing all the little activities with them. And the pandemic hit, and then I got pregnant with my daughter during the pandemic, like that summer, like June 2020. And so after that, it was just like double, like I had no time to really process through being a mom before becoming a mom again. And so it was just like it was just so much. And so during the pandemic with like the church, I had moved to San Antonio. So that the church that I went to has like different locations like all around, all over the country and
Right.
everything. So I went to start going to San Antonio since I lived here. And with that, I kind of lost that connection with the people I was with in Austin. So with that, it was kind of difficult for me. So it was already kind of like a shake in like my foundation a little bit, since I didn't have
Mhm.
all of my my foundation, like I call it like my church family is essentially
Right.
with. So it was like a big part of myself was kind of broken away when I moved to San Antonio. So that was kind of the beginning as well of like things kind of being shaky for me. So the pandemic has really just put things into like, because
Right.
some about just like, oh, we're virtual. Oh, I'm not going. Hell no, I'm out of here. Like this is my out. Like I'm gone. I'm just gonna go ahead and use this as my exit plan and just go ahead and just start, just do my own thing. And so I stopped going and so I just went on just raising my kids and everything. And with that, just getting into like I think just wanting to kind of just be the best person I can be. I just naturally, things just kind of started being brought up for me, like my marriage and just not being happy in my marriage, just in general, like just a basis. There's my relationship is extremely complicated, but there was just so much unhappiness, like as at the foundation of my marriage, and just like dissatisfaction. So with that started being brought up for me, and I ended up like just going down a path of like, okay, well, what am I going to do if if I'm not married, like what am I going to do? And people's what are people going to think? And a lot of it, I think, as well, with not going to the church anymore, was as well, I didn't have the expectations of like being in a marriage that I really didn't want to be in, because marriage was very was like, divorce was not something that happened. Like you got like you got
Right.
excommunicated. Like, you're like, yeah, like, you cannot get, you just did not get divorced. So it was just something that, like, if you just have a bad marriage, oh well, like, it's like, I mean, that's your fault for marrying the wrong person. Like, it's, so it's kind of just that kind of mentality, and you just kind of grinned and bear it. And I was like, that's not really fair. I mean, we're very complicated people. Like, to say that we
Right.
get it the first time is a little, is a little like, it's a little, it's a little pressure. So I just really had a lot of that kind of thought process. And so I started just going down a rabbit hole of like, okay, well, if I know, if I'm, why did I marry him? And oh my gosh, my childhood trauma with my dad. I didn't grow up with my dad. So I started just kind of going
Mm.
through all of this, and let's see, July, let's see, this is 2023. So July in 2022 was when I really had like my awakening, and it was just, it was very, for me, like, it really rocked my world, because I wasn't really, I was ready for something like change to happen, and I felt like I was on a treadmill going like in one place, like I wasn't getting anywhere. Like, I felt like I was collecting all of the things that I needed, but I wasn't being able to use like what I was sitting on, like, in a way to like progress me like spiritually. So I was like, okay, I need, like, what is, like, I'm sitting on all of this, like, just this kind of like curiosity and wonder and all of this, but I'm not really getting anywhere with it. I've gotten so far with like myself, and looking at myself kind of like in the mirror and seeing who I am and everything. And I felt like I was just kind of on a treadmill. So in July, it really kicked it off, and I was like, okay, this is wild. Like, this is like, this is like what I've been waiting for. Like, essentially, I felt like for my life to like kind of get to where I wanted to be. And I just always felt like a sense of dissatisfaction with like what I wanted to do in my life. Like, as far as like, I always felt like I had a greater purpose to help people. Like, I have a huge heart, and I love to help
Right.
others. And I always want the best for people, and I'm always wanting to do something for someone and try to help someone in some way. And I was like, okay, and I always felt like I had that quality about me for some reason. I was like, that's not, that generosity and kindness was not given just to be just wasted for just, just to live a life, and to just die and just say, okay, I was just this caring person, and that was it. I just felt like I had a greater purpose to help people really get to where they needed to be and where they wanted to be. And so, and I've always had people kind of gravitate toward me in my life, just like naturally, like people who needed help. And I was able to help them in some way. And I was like, why am I always running to these people that need help? And like, I'm like, sure, I'll help you, of course, like,
Right.
so it's just, I always felt like that was like a calling, and like a, it was like something like it was like a clarification for me to keep going in that direction, like I was thinking. And so I had a lot of later on I had a lot of clarity with like about, let's see, July I had my awakening. And so about October-ish was when I really started going deep into like spirituality and like tarot, and going into like all the readings and things like that. I had so many readings done. I spent so much money. So much money on all the spiritual things, going to tarot readers and going to all these things, and just doing my own research. And I was really looking for just community. I was like, there has to be people that think like me and that just want the best for people always, and that want to help people, but they're trying to figure out, how that there has to be people out there like that. Like, there has to be some type of way. And so with that, it kind of morphed into me finding Journey to Your Soul and doing all of those things. And so, then that's where I found like the community. And from there, it really morphed into, like, I listened to a lot of different like podcasts and watched a lot of different, I mean, I just absorbed so much as a sponge, absorbed so much different information. And I started having a lot of like guides starting to come into me now, and trying to decipher like what it was I was meant to do. And so I always kind of had a calling to help people. I knew that, and I had a base in food. So like, I went to culinary school, and I went like halfway through, and I was like, actually what happened was I went and I took a nutrition class, and I fell in love with nutrition and how nutrition worked with the body. And I was like, I really don't know if culinary is for me anymore. So I went
Right.
and I wrapped up and I finished all the cooking courses, and I just left. And I was like, I don't want to pursue, I mean, I want to pursue cooking, but I was like, I really want to do something with like working with food in the body and how it works. I think it's so cool. And so from there, about 10 years ago, I dove into like the herbalism and
Mm.
all that. And so I always had a natural knack for like herbalism, and like I was practicing things on my body, and always like doing different, putting different essential oils on cuts to see how they healed, and telling my mom, drink this, see if it'll help with your aches and pains. Like just telling my mom to do all these things and giving friends like all these different remedies. And like, oh yeah, it works. My stomach ache is better, or my skin cleared up. And so I'm like, okay, this stuff really works. So from there, I always like dabbled and just absorbed information about like herbalism, and took courses, and just read all the books I could, and just asked people. When I ran into herbalists, I would ask them questions, and just really just made the world my classroom with learning. And
That's
so
beautiful.
I learned a lot of that, and cooking. I've been cooking since I was professionally since I was about 16. And so with all that combined, I started to really learn that, okay, I think my modalities are around food in the body, and how food goes into your body, and how we take in the energy of like the food that we're eating, and how it goes through our body, and how it can change our chakras and all that kind of thing. So I really started to learn that that is where my calling is. Like I really made it very clear, just that like that's where my natural kind of like calling is like just food, and working with like people in their home, with aligning their homes and their kitchens with like with the right kind of energies for what they want to, with their energies, and to align their chakras, and kind of get their traumas worked out. 'Cause a lot of things are a lot of there's a lot of traumas that are manifested in our body, that come out physically with like food allergies and sensitivities and things like that. So a lot of things that we go through in our bodies with like, if we have like a trauma with when we were young, with like our father leaving when we were young and not growing up with the father, then we would sometimes we can manifest that, and we can have like, for me, like I had eczema when I was younger. And when I was younger, I had eczema, and I got it cleared up just from like changing my diet and going on probiotics, and it cleared up from me doing those kinds of things. So things manifest in the body from different traumas that we take on in our lives that aren't properly healed. And they a lot of times manifest as like arthritis, or they manifest as rosacea, or just a lot of common things that people write off as like, oh, it's just the environmental. But it may even be environmental, but a lot of times it's spiritual based, and it's from things that are just that we sit on, not quite the right way. And I think it's known that stress is one of the main factors of us having cardiovascular disease, and having
Right.
having a lot of depression. Just the world we live in is not easy sometimes. So I really learned that was my modality, is going through working with the body through food and herbalism and natural medicine, to really get you aligned to where you want to be, and kind of bringing in the energy of your home into it as well, since the kitchen is really the heart of your home as well. It's where you spend a lot of your time. And so if your kitchen doesn't flow well, you bring in feng shui, because your kitchen doesn't flow well,
Right.
the heart of your home does not flow. So your heart chakra is not going to flow. So it's all kind of connected with your home is very much connected with your body, and how it flows with your chakras and everything. So that was my calling, like about, I think earlier this year, it became clear that's the route that I wanted to go. And and so I went ahead and just really dove into it, and started getting really into to really start to just compile all my information on herbalism, and all the things that I knew already just naturally from my just years of taking in information. So I started compiling things, and all of that. And so my spiritual journey has been, just a lot of, for me, just really coming into my own, and owning what I already knew about myself, but that
Right.
I was just too, I was just too chicken shit, just to, just to like, oh yeah, let me just, I'm gonna own this. Like I have no, experience, but I know who, but you know who you are, and it resonates in your soul of like,
Totally.
yes, this is like, yes. And those things kind of come naturally to you, and you've naturally kind of gravitated to them. And then when you start to embrace them, they just kind of, knowledge just kind of comes out of nowhere. It just kind of just flows up from like, I think just your past lives, and just like your ancestors just saying, yes, this is who you are. Here's all this knowledge we've been holding for you, just here it is. So it's beautiful when you find who your path and who you're meant to be, and you find how you're going to sit in the world and how you're going to help people. So I think we all have some type of like baseline of like helping people, like of being of service in some way. I think is always our always like our mission in life, but just for every human, like you're helping someone on some level. So I think that's always, I think that's how you know you're on the right track with finding, you know, your purpose and figuring out what you're wanting to do. So it's been a journey for me, and it's been interesting to figure out how to decipher everything that I've been seeing. And like for me, numbers have been something that have been really big for me, which is also really wild because I've always had a thing when I was younger with counting like corners and rooms and making things like very even and symmetrical. And I'm horrible at math, which is hilarious. And so, but I always thought that like I'm actually very good at like dividing numbers evenly and splitting things up like symmetrically. I'm very good at like just that, like just naturally, just like making numbers even. And so numbers would start just popping up. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Synchronicities, just synchronicities of just seeing the same numbers over and over and learning what they mean, and really just paying attention. Just the smallest things can just be like just like the biggest like epiphany, like oh my god, like that was something I was looking for. I asked that question 2 months ago and here's my answer. So it's a lot of spirituality is really being in tune with like with yourself, and being in tune with who you with who you are, and like being in tune with your guides. And so it can be a lot. It could be a lot of going deep within yourself and just really paying attention to like just the smallest thoughts of just like the smallest thoughts can be just like a clue of like, oh yeah, you're going in the right direction, or this is what you're meant to just what you're meant to do. So that's the basis of kind of like what I love, my backstory. I have a lot of trauma with, I mean, a lot of my life I didn't grow up with my dad. I didn't meet my dad until I was about 20. So I have a lot of trauma with like growing up with a single parent and having a lot of self-worth issues and things like that. And I also have a physical disability as well called CMT, Charcot-Marie Tooth. That's like a neuromuscular disease. So it affects my fine motor skills. So like my hands and my feet. So like walking is difficult for me sometimes. And like fine motor skills, like writing can be kind of difficult. And it's ironic as well because I love art. So like painting and doing things with my hands, beadwork, making jewelry is something that I love to do. But I kind of have tremors in my hands, so it can be difficult. So it's all spiritual for me because it's like these challenges that I have to overcome with my self-worth, with my disability that I have, and like embracing that as a part of who I am has been like one of my biggest challenges. So, but it gives me a very unique and compassionate outlook on the world, and makes me so empathetic for other people because I struggle so much. And so I can really empathize with other people when they struggle. So I'm learning still to embrace my disability. So I struggle with that, and I had surgeries when I was younger, and I was picked on in school because of it and things like that. So I had a lot of anger and a lot of resentment towards myself, and why was I born this way, and all those kinds of things when I was growing up. So I really had to really do a lot of work with myself over the last year, and really look back at my life and say, girl, you have a disability where like it's hard for you to walk, and you were a chef for like 10 years, like going in kitchens and lifting these boxes, on your own. Like you were capable of so much more than you think that you're capable of. So I had a lot of kind of just moments of just really coming to realization of like who I am and how powerful, I am when I'm determined, and when I put my mind to something, like how determined I can be and what I can accomplish. So it's been a journey that's been a lot of my journey the last year or so, is coming into my own with my disability and embracing it, and going through my own journey and my own self-beliefs of what I think is capable, what I think is capable for myself, and what I can accomplish for myself and with my life. So that has been a lot of my journey the last years, going through that, and having a lot of trauma with being married to my spouse for 10 years, and we had a very, very difficult relationship, and we've been through a lot together, and we have a lot of traumas, in our relationship, and adding kids on top of that, that makes things like so much more, complicated and hard. And so that's led to me, like, leading to me getting a divorce and deciding to separate. And that's been liberating, and that's opened up a lot of growth in our own relationship with my partner as well. So it's been good. It's been good. It's been good overall with the growth. It's hard sometimes to verbalize, like, seeing because at least for me, I feel like I see my life and what it could be, like, as a picture, kind of like far away in my mind. And it's like, oh, to get there it would take so much, to get to that picture that you have in your mind, like all the steps you have to take. But when you see yourself taking those steps towards like that picture and like all the hard work, and it's like, it's going to be so hard to make all those steps and the changes, but you get closer and the picture gets clearer and it gets bigger and it kind of like gets more defined. You see more details as you get clear, as you get closer and work towards it. So it's been that kind of it's been that kind of like bittersweet kind of transition, where it's like, okay, relationships are changing and my life is changing, but also I'm going into the life that I know and I've always saw for myself, but I just never thought was possible, because it would take so much work to get there, and so much courage to get there as well. So it's a good feeling to have that kind of that vision of like knowing you're going toward the picture you see for yourself, and all the little twists and turns along the way, all the little side journeys.
So it sounds like you were in a really rough place, and spirituality's really helped you to develop and like work through a lot of your issues and kind of seek a better, happier life.
Yes, definitely. It was definitely like that kind of like when I was mentioning like the treadmill I was running on. I was like running on the treadmill. It was definitely like that little beam of light that I needed, that like, okay, here's the gift to like kind of get you where you want to be, but you didn't know what to do. You were kind of like searching. And so it was like that gift I was kind of waiting for, like, oh, that opened up. It's like, here you go, it fell down. And so it was definitely like that much needed like growth point, that little, like, I guess like the big I guess like one of the pinpoints in like my lifeline, I guess, is like spirituality, like getting that contact with spirituality and beginning that journey was definitely one of the key moments of my life, for sure.
Right. I love to hear that. That's so wonderful. So I know you're kind of working towards starting a business and like in that area. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So I finally have like a name that resonated with me. It's From the Heart Food and Wellness.
Oh, I
And so
love
I
that.
thank you. I have that name that I'm going for, and that I'm on Instagram as well. And I was really sitting on like the concept and how I wanted to, so I really was very conscious of like not wanting to be put into a box of like what I do, because through life we change so much. So I think it's not fair to put us in a box and say, this is the only thing that I do for my entire life. So I was very cautious about like, okay, I don't do cooking. I do food, food. And so I don't do like just spirituality. I do wellness, all things wellness. So different modalities. So I really was specific with trying to get the concept right. So what I do is I work with people who really have tried everything else and don't know what else to do. So if they went to doctors and they tried medications, they've tried, all the things, like, come to me. I love challenges. My son actually has horrible eczema. He's 4 right now, going on 5, but when he was a baby, I think he's had a lot of trauma when he was a child. He was born healthy, but just a lot of just modern medicine getting in the way of like just a healthy child, essentially. So it's just, so a lot of that kind of just me not really being educated enough at the time, like being a first time mom, of like stepping in and saying like, no, I'm just not going to do those things. So I have the belief that like vaccinations and all that just really had fucked up my kid, essentially. Like I just have a really strong feeling of that. So There's really no other kind of explanation as to why he would have eczema, or like at such a young age, especially with eczema being a disorder that is emotional based, and that is a lot of trauma, is his trauma response based. So for him being so young and receiving like trauma of like being circumcised and being and getting vaccinations and all that, I believe it caused like trauma in the system, and it manifested as like eczema. So, and he has allergies and all that. He's allergic to peanuts and milk and dairy, eggs, oats, wheat, all the things. So it's a challenge a lot of times to like cook for him and find things that work for him. So I've done extensive research on eczema, and I tell people I have a mom PhD in dermatology because I read so much on dermatology and allergies and how they work on the body, and I just don't have. I just think that people with eczema specifically, that because it's so emotional based and they don't know what triggers it, I think that it just comes from significant like emotional trauma or physical trauma that the body takes in, and a lot of things in our body manifest on our skin, and a lot of things are thrown off with our gut health as well. So so I did a lot of research with eczema with my son, and with like plant-based medicines and all plant-based foods as well. So I know a lot about those kinds of different areas. And so I knew, and so that's why I felt like I was given, honestly, it was a gift to have my son and have the challenges that he has, because he was given me as a mom who was like, I have all these skills that I was just given. And so I felt like I was ready to kind of get him in order and get him healed and everything. So we went on a big diet sweep in our house. We went plant-based for a lot of our meals, and we got out all of the harmful chemicals in our home, and we got really big on like, we got an air or a water purifier and purified our water, and just all these things. And we got his eczema under control to the point where, you know, he wasn't on his medications for allergy, and his allergy doctor wasn't understanding. He's like, he's not on medications, but he has, you know, but his skin is clear. I was like, well, we're doing diet and getting him out in the sun and getting him on a really good skin routine. And just recently, in the last month or so, we've been doing quantum healing with Journey to Your Soul. So I've been doing that on him a lot with healing. And I just noticed that in the last probably a couple of weeks, that his eczema is actually like, his skin is smoothing out and he's not itching as much as he used to. And I was like, I just realized that. And so I've been using those. So I'm just kind of, as time goes on, I collect all of these different modalities to help people and to kind of be of service to people. So I have all these different tests that I can do with your body to read your body's response to like different allergens without having to go to a doctor and get pricked and, prodded and all that. And it's amazing. Your body can tell you physically, your body gives a lot of physical responses when it doesn't like something. When it's like a negative response, your body gives a lot of physical responses. If your heartbeat may increase, your body may weaken, you may have like an allergic reaction. So it's a lot of those kinds of skills that I've learned over time to use. They're like non-invasive. They're just ways to read your body. That it's just amazing that that your body is like a map, and it really will tell you what to do if you just know how to read the signs and like the energy of your body and things. It really you really just know how to heal yourself if you just know how to, like, what to look for and how to treat your body. So with my skills with cooking and with like the plant-based medicine, I kind of use those as modalities along with like other spiritual kind of healings and like energy work and things like that to help people get to where they want to be in their life, and kind of help them, give them more, to give them like their life purpose, so they're able to pursue what they want to do with their life, and they're able to go for what they want and achieve like their dream of what they see for their life, but they haven't been able to because of ailments. And a lot of things, can be trauma based, and a lot of things are just environmental, that your body just needs a good cleansing. You just need to get out some allergens from your home and just clean up your diet. And I'm not at all someone who's against like eating a burger and fries. I eat junk food all the time. Like, people are always like, I don't want to give up my food and give up my junk food. And I'm totally like, we have one life to live. We should enjoy ourselves, eat the food that you like, things like that. But definitely, if your body's giving like a response that's like, okay, I do not like this, and it's like causing me harm, that's where I'm like, okay, you may, like we need to think about your health and giving yourself the best chance to live a full life, as full of a life as you can. So my business was really based around that concept, and I really came to me just really recently that's what I was meant to do, because I just started thinking back on just like my son and how I'm helping him with, we went through doctors and they just pretty much were like, we can't, like he has eczema, that's just what he has. The rest of his life he'll just have that kind of he'll just have that kind of a diagnosis and he'll have to deal with that. And I just didn't take no for an answer. I just don't believe that that we, being spiritual beings, were meant to be perfect, in that way of like being healed and having our body function the way it should, and how God intended our body to function. And so for me, I feel that when we have everything flowing how it needs to flow, then we can live a prosperous life. And I just don't think that diseases are natural, for our body. Like if our body is functioning properly, we should be able to get those diseases out of our body and to get those ailments. And if a lot of things, if you've tried everything else, then that's where spiritual work may come into play, with like Reiki and having your chakras aligned and things. Because a lot of things are sometimes spiritual based. We hold on to like the stress and the traumas of childhood or past lives that we may not be aware of. We can hold on to that, and a lot of that has to be released. And once we release it, a lot of your skin will clear up, or your arthritis may clear up, or your back to stop hurting. And just miraculous things that people have gone through just from going through like a spiritual like cleansing and like the spiritual process. And it takes sometimes, it'll take several sessions, and it may take extensive work depending on like how hard it is. For like, our mind is so powerful, it may take us a while for our mind to let those things go. But eventually you can get to a place where your mind is in a place of like just tranquility, and it's able to release those traumas, and you're able to just let yourself flow and just heal, and you'll still begin to do the healing process. So I myself I'm going through a healing process with my disease. My disease is genetic, and it's supposed to be incurable. And I see myself, like, my parts of my body are not aching like they used to, and my dexterity is better, and just my ability like to get around and things like that have been just significantly better. So it's definitely, I feel, just don't limit yourself to what you've been told is not possible. Is really, really very, very important, because if we believe that we were made from the universe and we were made from God and all this magic, then what makes you think that the same magic cannot come in and heal us, and and give us and heal us from all these diseases and things like that? So it's just, don't put yourself in a box and limit yourself to what is possible. So that's essentially what I do. So I work with like your diet and food, and kind of work with like what you put into your body, because that's like one of the first things that we come into contact with, like working with the five senses. How does this make you feel? How does it resonate with your body? If something does not make you feel good, then we shouldn't be doing it. So just really learning to read your body, and then going into a deeper level, if it's needed, to going to a deeper level and like helping with getting some of the spiritual work, like cleansing, those kinds of things done, to get you to a place where you're able to heal and to transition into the person you're meant to be, essentially.
That's so hopeful and such a wonderful story. You make so many good points. Um, and I think it's just incredible, the turnaround you've seen in your own life, and like the fact that you're ready to share that with other people, and like not even just your own, but your son's life. Like, wow,
Yes.
that's a lot of really positive change. Have you ever found yourself feeling lonely or isolated in your spiritual practice? Is it hard for you to find like-minded people you can relate to and connect to? Well, let me tell you about the community Journey to Your Soul. This is an online community for people into spirituality, but not just your normal love and light, unauthentic, everyday bullshit. This is a group that includes a chat, a post feed, and scheduled Zoom meetings on a regular basis. And we talk about psychic gifts, energy healing, mediumship, star seeds, light workers, tarot readings, oracle readings, and anything else in the spiritual realm. Here's a quote about Journey to Your Soul from the leader, Barbie. This is a place about helping each other through their spiritual journey to finding God consciousness, to know that we're here and no one has to go it alone. Personally, this group has helped me so much to grow my psychic gifts, and I've even brought in new abilities such as connecting with other spirit guides and ancestors. I don't live in an area with very many spiritual people, and this community has given me a place to be my authentic self and get advice and even close friendships. I highly encourage you to check it out and become a member of Journey to Your Soul. Check out the link below in the description. Now, back to the podcast. You mentioned that like people who have tried doctors, have tried medication, have tried those things, those are like the people that need to come and find you. What are some issues that you are particularly well equipped to handle? Like we mentioned the plant-based, the changing your diet, and the eczema issues. Are there other things that you're particularly, skilled at or maybe experienced in?
So I'm really good with skin issues since my son he has eczema. Skin and with digestion are the two things that I'm really big on, that I love to help with, and like anything with like food allergies, things like that, with anything really just really kind of any kind of like how do I word this? Like any kind of like food trauma. So like if there's any kind of like any kind of issue that people have with like food, like if people are not really big on like eating foods or like adverse to like certain kind of foods that they need to have more of, or if someone needs help with just like getting better like cooking meals that are more healthy for themselves, and like more nutritious and things like that. Those are kind of like the things that I'm really, I should say, like that were my beginning, like starting points when I first started, that I've been doing for like the longest.
Right. That's awesome. And you mentioned that you've seen a lot of improvements in your own health, especially in areas where doctors have told you it's not going to get any better. Would you say that's mostly because of the plant medicine, or mostly the diet change, or maybe the quantum healing has something to do with it?
Yeah, definitely. So I have, so my disease that I have is genetic. So it doesn't get better. It gets worse over time.
Right.
So they've already told me, like, there's only so much they can do. And, there's surgeries and things like that. And there's, of course, as medicine advances, there's like gene therapy that I can go through. And I haven't done anything like that. I haven't done any surgeries or anything for my disorders since I was a kid, really. So it's really just a lot of like physical therapy and like an occupational therapy that I do for like just maintaining my motor skills and things. But I definitely, in the last probably 6 months, I've noticed, like for instance, I had this cyst that was like this massive cyst that was on my wrist, the ganglion cyst that was from just because I have muscle wasting in my hand. So my hands so I don't have as much muscle tissue in my hands. So whenever I hold a pencil or like I chop food or anything, my wrist kind of compensates for it and it kind of turns in. So there's a lot of pressure on my wrist joints. So over time it created a cyst. And I've had this thing for like 10 years, since I was in high school, actually. I've had it for a very long time. And I had surgery to take it out. Like back maybe I think about 2016, I had surgery to take it out. I had one in each wrist. The one in my left wrist never came back after the surgery. Then the one in my right wrist, about a year later or so, came back. And I was like, son of a bitch. So, so it's like, damn it, I thought that was it. So it was there, and I was like, okay. And it was massive, like this huge, like the size of like a quarter, like massive cyst. And I was like, okay. And I actually I was actually going to the doctor to have them take it out surgically. I was like, okay, let me go ahead and just go to the doctor, have them surgically take it out again. And I had a prayer, and I was like, God, I need you to take this thing out of my wrist before this surgery, because I don't want to take time off work. I don't want a medical bill and all of that stuff. And then Barbie started having the quantum healing classes, and I was like, I will go. And I started just practicing. And then I was like, okay, let me just go ahead and just have the belief like that this is healing. And I just spoke words. I like literally just spoke positive words over my wrist. It's like, this cyst is gone, is dissolving, is not going to come back. Like, it's no longer here. The pain is gone. And I just left it. And I did it, forgot about it. And then, like, I think about maybe 3 weeks ago, I was working and I was typing and I was like, this cyst looks a little smaller to me. And I was like, nah. I was like, surely that's in my mind. But like, now it is completely flat.
Wow.
Like, you cannot see it at all. Like, before, when I had it, it was like you could see like the massive like knot when my hand was just not extended, and it's gone. Like, it's like a little mountain right there dissolving. And so, and it's in my MRI for this cyst is like next week to go get an MRI for them to like scan it to know where to cut for the surgery. And so they're going to go, they're like, there's nothing here to scan, ma'am. What are you here for? Your cyst is gone. So, and I was like, I need this done before the surgery, before I get. And so sure enough, that's like, just believing in yourself is powerful. Just believing in like the power of yourself and what you can do to heal yourself is it's incredible what we're capable of. So
yes,
just like those kind of things, like just my knee is getting better with like, with healing, things get worse before they get better. So it's always important to kind of journal like the pains that you're having, and when days when it's worse or better, just so like if it's something that like, if maybe some days are worse or better because like you did more walking that day, or if they're getting better because the healing's working. It's like, it's important to know just like where you are. So because like a lot of times you'll have a lot of aches and pains. You're like, okay, this stuff's supposed to make it better, but it's getting, so a lot of healing to put things back the way they're supposed to be. Your body has to heal itself. So it's going to hurt a little bit, so my knee has been like achy, and I'm like, why? My knee is not normally, like, my right knee is my good knee. So my left knee is my bad knee. So I had a lot of achiness there, and I was like, what did I do to it? I didn't do anything. And it was just like this feeling of like, just wait, just like, just let it heal. And then sure enough, it started getting like stronger. And I was like, interesting. Thought I had pulled something, but it's just a lot of things I've just noticed with my body, just like being more, I have a lot of like tension in my body. A lot of my tendons are very tight. And so there's a lot of tension a lot of times with like my hands, with my, and my feet, there's a lot of tension, and everything is just a little bit more loose. And it's difficult to explain when you've lived in a body that has so much like tension and just like tightness, to have like that energetic feeling of like, just like your body being able to like relax. I just have this sense of like, okay, my body is doing things that it didn't do before. It's like, it's doing it now. And it's, you can sense kind of like you're functioning a little bit better than you did before. So it's definitely significant healing from the last time that before I did any kind of spiritual like healing or quantum healing. It's significant difference.
that's so wonderful. I love that. I knew we had seen each other at the quantum healing events in Journey to Your Soul.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know you had such a incredible turnaround with all of that.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of it until I really just started like paying attention to, like, so I just did it and forgot about it. And I started looking, I was like, this is actually gone. Like, it's flat. And I was like, oh wow, I didn't even realize. I did it and just forgot about it and just like had faith. And I was like, okay, I'll just do it. And then sure enough, I just looked down one day and it was shrinking.
Yeah. So if someone was interested in maybe looking into some of the things that you specialize in, what would be your suggestion if people wanted just to learn a little bit more? Do you have any books that you learned a bunch from, or any courses?
Let's see. So for herbalism, I just recently actually watched a really good documentary called Heal, that Barbie recommended.
I saw that.
I watched that. It's very good. I highly recommend that, to watch that, just to kind of get an understanding about like energy healing and like that, and that kind of energy work. For books, there's a lot of, I'm very big on learning the herbs for your that, like, for the state and the area that you're in. Like, I'm very big on like working with native plants. I just feel like they're native to your area, so I know they work better from the area that they're in, with the soil that they originated from, and that kind of thing, and the energy from that area that they were originated from. It's just they're a lot more, they're built for that climate in that area, so they're a lot more effective and a lot more potent.
Right.
So I'm always really big on getting knowledge about native plants. So really, I always recommend sites that have any kind of like .org, .edu, like credibility. So I always go for those sites first for books to read and things like that. A lot of knowledge that I got over time has been from a lot of the like native. There's a book that, let me see if I can find it. There's a book that is for native plants that is really good that I recommend, and it's like a good kind of like beginner book for learning about herbalism, and that's a good starting point. So it's called let's see, the Native American Herbalist Bible.
Oh, that sounds really cool.
The Native American Herbalist Bible. So it's a good book to read for first, like just native plants to each kind of area that to use, and just use it it goes over using it in like a traditional way, like that's very kind of ethical and just very traditional, and just leaves the plant kind of like in the most pure pure form possible.
Right.
We're not really like messing with it too much. So I really love that book for learning about herbalism and really just doing a lot of research. So there's so many really good like Facebook groups nowadays for like people in your area, for like just searching like herbalists like in whatever area you lived in. So like herbalists in San Antonio, and just going and visiting a shop and just asking around, like going and visiting some local herbalist shops and asking localists where they learned what information that they have. I love going to local areas and getting people's opinions on what they recommend for books. And so a lot of knowledge came from there, just talking with people and learning from local herbalists in my area. A lot of things are just natural. A lot of things are really just kind of like common sense that I know with my cooking background. Like I know just from like working with like plants, like, okay, if I cook this plant, it's going to be shit. Like I can't cook the hell out of this plant, because like I know that like plants like break down, and then if they break down, they don't, they're not going to be as strong. So like, okay, so maybe like crushing them versus chopping. So like a lot of those things I just knew naturally from cooking, and just from and really I think because of like just my natural, like my ancestors. I think a lot of this comes from like my natural background with my ancestors. A lot of this knowledge just comes from like within me, and I'm going with what I know from within me, and I'm doing the research to kind of validate what I know already. And I'm like, okay, that's accurate. So a lot of stuff is just coming from just my natural self. So a lot of that kind of knowledge comes from there. With energy work, I'm learning a lot just from Journey to Your Soul, and just working on myself, and really just trusting and just listening to spirit whenever I'm with this, like asking. I realize there's a lot of power in just asking for help with this specific person that you're working with, like asking their guides to come to you for this specific person, like, and just asking them to bring the knowledge to you for this specific person. There's a lot of power in that. And so a lot of times with spiritual work, I don't want to say there's not a lot of, there's a lot of, because everyone is so different. Everyone is so different. So it's hard to say that what works for them is going to work for this other person. So a lot of it is just, a lot of it is just like one-on-one, like very, it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very personalized. So it's very personalized for that person. So I may make a tincture for one person, have to do specific research for one person for certain things. So it just depends on the different like the different ailments. But you can definitely, people can go just locally. I recommend going local and asking people locally, speaking to people. Anything that's accredited by the Herbalist Association is going to be really good too. And anyone that's accredited by like who's like a certified herbalist is really good to go to as well. So anything, any of that kind of going that route is what I recommend. Just going with your focusing on your local plant life is what I recommend. So learning about your local plant life. That way you can forage and find your own stuff for free in your
Right.
area. You don't have to worry about going and buying stuff from an apothecary. You can just go out into your yard and just snip some stuff, or go off into your local woods and just clip the stuff, and and just use whatever you have there locally. There's books for every region, I guarantee you.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I don't think I've ever heard anyone else really stress how good locality can be.
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
some really good advice.
Yes, yes.
And so to kind of close out our interview, I wonder if someone found themselves in a place similar to where you've been, and they're kind of new to spirituality, don't really know how to handle the challenges that are coming their way. Do you have any maybe just intuitive advice that you would, or words of encouragement that you would like to share with maybe people in our audience who would be listening and not really know where to go next?
Hmm. Um, so one thing I have to give is trust yourself, and trust you know what you need to do to get your life to where it needs to be. So whatever is the first thing that pops into your head of the route that you need to take, and if that may mean separation, or that may mean moving to another state or getting another job, whatever that first step is, take that first step in that direction, and ask for help from your guides. Just ask genuinely, from just good intention. Ask for, just say, I need the space and the ability to get to where I want to be in my life. Ask for help from your guides to just to open doors for you, and to speak to you, and to give you the clarity and the vision to see what they give to you to see in your life. So asking for help in that way is always something, and trusting yourself is always a start. You don't really need many people to help you on your journey. I know it's hard. I know it's hard to understand, but you really do have everything that you need to succeed on your own in your journey. It's very good to have a community. And so asking for a community is really important as well. So people to like bounce things off of, like-minded people. I really recommend that, but you don't need like a guru or like a coach to like say, oh, this is the route you need to take for your life. You know where you need to go for your life, and you know what you want in your life and what you don't want in your life. So taking steps towards getting the things out of your life that you don't want, so that you can pursue the things that you do want, is the starting point that I give. So it's the advice that I give. It's just taking that first step towards the vision of your life that you want.
That's wonderful. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. Um, I will have Amia's Instagram and any other contact information she wants in the description of this episode, so you guys can all scroll down and find it down there. And other than that, I want to say thank you for joining us, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining me in this interview today. I hope you were inspired and maybe learned something from Amia today. I want you all to be well, be kind, and may your curiosity for this world never fade.